Welcome back to the Abundant Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Allison Pereira, founder of abundancepracticebuilding.com. And I'm here with Daniel Woodrum. He's the head coach over at Early to Rise. He has been a coach of mine for, since I think 2021 or something. And Daniel and another mentor of mine, Craig Ballantyne, have just written a book that I think is going to be really instrumental in helping you all get the things done that you need to get done and making sure that you are as efficient, as effective as humanly possible. So I invited Daniel on here because I really, really want y'all to know this stuff. So thanks so much for being here, Daniel.
Thanks, Allison. I'm excited for the opportunity. And yeah, it's been, I think 3 years now that we've been, working together, and it's been amazing to see your journey. And I'm excited to pay it forward and share some of the things that we're working on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk some about discipline. I'm going to put in asterisks
Yeah.
for the people who just cringed or had some sort of reaction to that word. I think as therapists, we can give our feelings a lot of credit and a lot of agency.
Hmm.
And I think I also have a lot of neurodivergent folks that listen. And so it's not always as simple as just like make yourself do the thing. So
Yep.
for those folks, I want to be really clear. This is not the conversation on discipline or disciplining children. Like, this is not that conversation.
Yes.
I want you to listen to this so that getting things done will be easier for you. So let's talk about discipline
Yes.
with that long caveat.
Yeah, so and I'm glad you said that, Allison, because I think most people associate discipline with pain and suffering, because that's
Yeah.
sort of a lot of what we were brought up with, from our parents. And one of the things that we say that's really like the key essence of the book is that our definition of discipline is putting a level 10 out of 10 efforts and focus and energy into your level 10 out of 10 problem. Whether
Hmm.
that's a personal problem in your life, it could be finances, it could be relationship, it could be a bad habit or an addiction that you have. It could be business related. Maybe it's a team member, or maybe you're struggling financially in your business. And so putting a 10 out of 10 effort into your 10 out of 10 problem or opportunity, to us, is really the only definition of discipline that truly matters. And I don't think anyone's ever really talked about that before. And we've realized through just all the experience that we've had of our personally and then coaching others, is that really is the only way to get ultimate success and fulfillment and happiness in your life.
Yeah. And it's been one of the things that y'all have coached me on that's made the biggest difference in my life and my business and
Yeah.
all of it. Because often when things are not going so well in an area, we want to put our heads in the sand. I love that story Craig tells about like speaking to gym owners. Will you tell that?
Yes, yes. So Craig and I both kind of come from the health and wellness space. So this is the story that we share in the book, and we talk a lot about, is that there used to be this big conference every year called the Fitness Business Summit. It was hosted by a guy named Badgers Cooley, who I know you know, Allison. You've heard him speak
Mhm.
before. One of the bigger fitness conferences, and it was like 1,000 people every single year. And Badgers ran this thing for like 8 or 10 years. And we always say that, there'd be 1,000 fitness professionals, gym owners show up every single year. And, one year they would be 8% body fat and then $8 in the bank account. And the whole idea of the event was to help people grow their fitness business and make more money, have more of an impact. And in between all of the presentation, the sessions, all these network breakout things, and, in the hallways, all these trainers and gym owners and fitness professionals, all they wanted to talk about was the latest nutrition, hacks and exercise strategies and all these latest, apps and all these things. And so we joked the next year they would come back and they would be 7% body fat. They were even in better shape, but they had $7 in the bank account. And so we
Mhm.
say that they were putting a level 10 out of 10 effort into a level 1 out of 10 problem. They were already in amazing shape. They didn't need to get in better shape. But they were putting level 1 out of 10 problem into their 10 out of 10, or 1 out of 10 effort in their 10 out of 10 problem, which is trying to actually grow their business, make more money, make more of an impact. And so that's the story that we share, that I think a lot of people kind of laugh at, but resonate,
Mhm.
I'm sure, in many
Oh, yeah.
life.
Yeah, I mean, because we all do this to some extent,
Yeah.
right? We all have things we're probably actively avoiding in either our business or our lives.
Yep.
That continue. I mean, I'm thinking about like it will take me 15 minutes to get the things to my accountant that he needs, like 15
Mhm.
minutes. Like I can put my hands on most of it, and I just keep not doing it. And I do this every single year.
Yeah.
Like it's so simple and easy, and it's something I think about in the middle of the night. where
Yep.
I'm like, oh God, I was going to do that today and I didn't abide by my schedule, which I'm really good about abiding by my
Yes.
schedule, but that's
Yes.
one thing I
Yeah.
just kind of avoid.
And I'm glad you said that because, like, obviously those are some extreme examples. But to kind of go to your point, my eyesight is not great. It gets worse and worse every year, and I continue to put off just making an appointment for the eye doctor. Like, I know I need to book. I know I need to book an appointment, but it's like that inevitable. Like, well, I don't want to have to do it, and I know I'm going to get contacts or glasses. I'm going to keep procrastinating and putting it off. And it's like the stupidest thing when you think about it. And what I
Hmm.
needed to do was I needed to have a good friend of mine hold me accountable. And so he said, Daniel, I'm gonna meet you at Starbucks in the morning time, which I'm sure we can talk about Allison and my kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But he met me at Starbucks one early morning. This was just last week. And he essentially forced me, held me accountable to book an appointment. And so I have an appointment booked, for April. I had to book it a few weeks out. But like I didn't realize how much stress and burden I was carrying myself by not doing this until I did. I was like, oh my God, I just felt like this sense of release all of a sudden. And so sometimes it's these small things that we keep putting off and they just compound and get bigger and bigger and bigger and more stressful and more stressful when you could have just taken 5 minutes to do it and it would have been over with.
Yeah, yeah. And like life is hard enough, really. Like
Yes.
these little stupid things that we could do super quickly. This just adds to the things that are actually problems.
Yes.
And if
Yes.
we can get these off, then we have more like mental space and clarity and less burden.
Yeah, it's like the whole week. You might have heard this phrase before, and Craig talks a lot about it. It's like death by a thousand cuts. It's these little things that just add up, compound. But on a larger scale, they end up causing a lot of stress, a lot of headache, a lot of frustration, lost time, lost money, whatever it may be. When you can just simply either do them or have somebody else do them for you, or eliminate them altogether, and you're gonna have so much more freedom and headspace and mental energy.
Absolutely. Can we talk about the standards?
Yes, I would love to. Yes, yeah. So there is this concept of standards, and how this sort of came about was I was at an event. It's actually a fitness business summit event I talked about earlier. This is a few years ago. Ed Milet, who some of your audience might know, is a really popular motivational speaker and a business guy. And he came out on stage and he was saying, he's like, I always think about death. And he's like, I think about death not in the sense of like a morbid way, but he's like, I use it as inspiration perspective. He said, because I think about, when I die, and he's Christian, obviously, when I go to heaven and I meet my maker, he's like, I know that God's gonna look at me and say, like, Ed, this was the man, the husband, the businessman that I made you to be. These are the amount of people that you could have impacted. But as you stand here before me today, this is what you became. Like, this was the potential that you reached. And he's like, I want to be as close to that full potential as possible. And he
Mhm.
talked about in that presentation about how standards, like how to live a life of high standards. And I was like, wow, that is so powerful. But at the time, I was not a parent yet. I didn't fully understand it. And as I became a parent and I realized the importance of having standards and what is most important to me in my life, right? What is
Mhm.
my definition of success? What is my definition of impact? What is my values and my vision? And when I realized that, I was like, wow, like this is a really, really powerful concept because to me, discipline is what you do. Standards are who you are. It's like your identity. It's what we call non-negotiables or rules of your life. Now the problem is that if you don't identify your own personal standards, you're going to try to chase other people's standards, other people's
Mhm.
success. And that is a very dangerous game of the comparison syndrome that I fell victim to for many, many years because when you don't have standards, when you don't have a North Star, you try to live other people's life. You chase their North Star. You chase their standards. And you're
Mhm.
never going to win that game because the rules are always changing and it's not your actual path. It's not your
Right.
road to success. And so I created this system in order to identify your standards because you probably hear a lot of times people say, live a life of higher standards. Like, well, okay, how? Show me how to do that. And so the way that I've kind of created a system, Allison, is I want you to think about what are the four most important areas of your life? Like, what are the four areas of your life that mean the most to you? And just as an example, not to copy, just an example for me, it is family, it
Mhm.
is health, it is discipline, and it is leadership. Like, those are the four
Mhm.
areas that are most important to me. So, when you
Mhm.
identify your four most important areas, then what I want you to do is I want you to write out a mission statement, some sort of mission statement or statement on why that is most important to you. So for me, it's like for family, for example, my mission statement is family comes before everything. They're the most important thing in my life.
Mhm.
You're going to create a mission statement for each of your standards. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create 3 personal standards for each of those 4 categories. And so in totality, you're going to have 12 personal standards that you are going to try to live your life by. And those become your rules of your life, your non-negotiables. All right. So for example, like if I have a standard that I don't take any coaching calls or appointments after 4 p.m. because from 4 until 7:30, I have 3 young kids. We put them down about 7:30 at night. Between 4 and 7:30, that is my family time. So if someone says, "Hey Daniel, like can you do an appointment? Can we do a meeting at 4:35?" Nope. It's a standard. Where if I didn't have that standard in place, I would negotiate with myself. I would break that, and that would bleed into my family time. So it's a really, really powerful system, and it takes some time for you to really sit down and identify those. But when you do, again, you have more fulfillment, you're going to have more success, more happiness, and ultimately you're going to be on your path to success and not worrying about chasing other people's definition of success.
What I also love as somebody who has had too many standards is that it's
Mhm.
4. Like
Yes.
it's like 4 categories.
Yep.
I mean, like a standard I've had for myself since I was in my 20s is like, and this is maybe being raised by a Southern woman who was raised by a Southern woman.
Mhm.
I want my house to be ready for company within 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
like, I never want my house to get messy enough that it would take me more than 15 minutes to get it ready for
I
company,
love that.
which
Yeah.
I love. But also when you have 3 businesses and 2 kids and a
Hmm.
partner, and one of your kids has health issues, like that
Yeah.
was one I had to let go of.
Yeah.
Now it
Yeah.
might take me 30 minutes or 2 of us 30 minutes to get it ready.
Right.
So it's
Yep.
not, and I still get anxiety when I look around. I'm like, oh, there's clutter.
Mhm.
But there are certain standards we might need to let go of as lives change, as situations change.
Yes. Yes.
And I think setting it with like being really clear on what now, right now, what are your top 4 things, with the understanding that that changes. Before you
Yeah.
had kids, you know, you and Brittany, I'm sure like family was still on
Mhm.
there, but it's
Right.
on there, like it's a bigger part of that pie.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. No, that is that's a good point. A lot of people say, well, and it's like, yes, your standards are not going to change much, but as your life changes, as season changes, you should always audit your standards and audit the
Mhm.
4 areas that are most important to you. And yes, if a season changes or life events happen and you need to change that, then absolutely change that. But in general, like, if you're a vegan or if you don't swear, you don't drink alcohol, like, more than likely that stuff is going to stay consistent throughout
Right.
your entire life. But some of those will change, like you said, as you have kids, as you evolve and things like that. So absolutely.
Yeah. And some things like I don't drink alcohol. I haven't had alcohol since 2019. Like I
Yep.
don't even need to write that down because it's just so set in stone for
Yeah.
me,
Yep.
that I can then devote that space to something else.
Yes, yes. And another thing too is because people might say like one of my standards is to exercise every single day. And you might think to yourself, well, Daniel, you told me earlier that discipline is putting a 10 out of 10 effort into a 10 out of 10 problem. Like if health is not a problem, why are you still doing that? Well, it's not discipline, that's a standard. That's just a non-negotiable. So that's
Mhm.
really what the difference is. Again, discipline is what you do. Standards are just they're who you are.
Right. Which for therapists listening, like we're talking about values, right? Like your
Yes.
values are what drive your standards.
Hmm.
And then like your discipline is how you fulfill those standards.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. And another thing we talk a lot about in the book is you need systems as well. Like you cannot just rely because a lot of times discipline is still reliant on willpower and motivation, which is always fleeting. There's
Mhm.
always external factors with that, whether it's your mood, your stress, your energy levels, the weather. There's so many different things with that. But when you have systems in place, it helps make success automatic. It helps make action
Mhm.
automatic. So like for me, for example, is I have a lot of different systems that I follow that I use. But one of the things that I do is like in order to get up in the morning time very consistently every single morning, I have a system where the night before I will go ahead and lay out my clothes and I will go ahead and pick out my clothes. I'll put them in the bathroom or bathroom sink. That way it's done. I have my computer bag packed. I have my water bottle packed. I then will turn my alarm on, put my phone across the room and plug it up. So that way my alarm goes off. I have to get up out of bed to turn it off. Now it's tempting to just roll over if it's right there by your bed and hit the snooze button. And
Mhm.
then also I have a very clear, like a 3-minute routine that I do in the morning time. So like that is a system for me where I know that way, if I don't do that, I'm gonna be more tempted to hit the snooze button, talk myself into sleeping more, or not doing what I need to do in order to start my morning, which is very important to me, so I can get things done and then get back and spend time with my kids and get them to school in the morning time.
Mhm. Yeah, it takes the drama out of it too.
Yes.
right? Because the thing
Yes.
I struggle with when I feel like I'm struggling with discipline is I'm trying to use willpower, which I've
Yep.
used up hours before, like
Mhm.
my cachet of willpower for the day. I'm trying to use willpower to do something I maybe don't want to do. So I'm talking myself into it and I'm talking myself out to it and I'm going back and forth.
Yep.
When like if you just take the action and you just make it happen, um, it just takes the drama out of it and it's
It,
done.
it does. Yep.
And I mean, you get up extraordinarily early, like you're up and at Starbucks at 4:30 with your
Yes.
3-minute routine.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
mhm.
And I
It's
tell people like I'm very like I don't normally tell people when most people know when I wake up if you follow me like on Instagram if you know me like you do Allison because I mean it's very consistent every day but I made a video on Instagram the other day that I was like this is really good is it doesn't matter what time you wake up in the morning like there's nothing magical about 5 a.m. club 6 a.m. 7 a.m. It doesn't matter because if you get up and if you waste an hour scrolling on your phone and you're just kind of laying around you're not doing things that are important to you in the morning time whether that's work family, exercise, whatever your definition of success in the morning time, if you're not doing that, then it doesn't matter what time you wake up. So to me, it's more about like the consistency of trying to wake up at the same time every single
mhm,
day to the best of your ability. And then having some sort of morning routine that is consistent. So whatever is important to you first thing in the morning, you can take action on that. You have the systems in place. So again, it's just more automatic. And the more that you can stack those wins up, the easier it becomes. Like one of my favorite sayings is compliance breeds confidence. And so
mhm,
the more compliance you can have, the more you can kind of stack those wins. Doesn't mean you're gonna be perfect, but to me, discipline is not about being perfect or all these winning streaks. It's like, hey, if you mess up, if you have a bad day, if you have a bad week, you're able to get back on track. And to me, that's
mhm.
the ultimate definition of discipline.
Yeah, yeah. And so in the dark side of discipline, you and Craig are talking about, I'm assuming standards and values and how can you talk some about some systems that have been helpful? Like you shared yours for getting up, but what's something that y'all have helped your coaching clients with that you feel like most people might be able to benefit from?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the systems that we have is that we have this thing called non-urgent important work, which is a system in the morning time, which I know you
I
like a
love
lot,
it.
Allison, is that a lot of times again we wake up, as business owners, therapists, whatever it may be, and you wake up and you immediately go into like reaction mode. You know what I mean? Like you're doing a long to-do list, or it's you're replying back to client emails or to team member emails or messages and you just wake up and you wake up in that heightened stress, right?
Mhm,
And you wake up and you're just reacting. You're not actually like blocking time. You're not having productive time. So one thing that we talk about is we call it NUI work. It's non-urgent important work. So non-urgent important work are things that are not urgent. They don't need to be done right now, but they are important for the long-term success of your business. And that could be anything from like creating new programs, or marketing, or maybe it's something personal. Maybe it's like you need to get taxes done. Now I know it's urgent right now. We're doing this, but maybe it's
yeah.
taxes. You know what I mean? And it's like they're not due for a while, but they're not urgent. But the longer you put them off, the more urgent they become. But it's
Right.
important to get those things done. So if you could just dedicate 30 minutes into the non-urgent important work every single day, you're going to be able to make a lot more success in your business and really work on your business and not in your business. Because as we know, as the day starts and if you start seeing clients, whether it's in person or virtually, again, it's just a lot of client facing, a lot of urgent. There's a lot more fires to put out, and you have less control. But you
Mhm.
have a lot more control, usually more creativity, more energy first thing in the morning. So if you could just do that, that is one system that I promise you will impact your business.
Yeah. And so for therapists, I'm thinking y'all could be doing like content creation during that time. That's when y'all read my newsletter, when you most of my social media post captions, those kinds of things are typically written at 5 in the morning
Yep.
because and I will say my brain, I'm a morning person. You might not be, so don't like whoever's listening, don't feel like 5 a.m. It's not the
Yes.
magic time. For me, the morning, my brain is freshest. I can get like hours of work done in a shorter period of time because my brain is like I'm just less distracted and it's
Yes.
fresher.
Yes. And
Um,
we say we I don't know if I don't think this is based on facts, but sometimes you say it so much like this is factual. But we always say like you're 5 times more productive in the morning time than you are any other time of the day.
huh.
So it's like I mean, like 2 hours could be like more like 2 hours in the morning time could be really worth like 10 hours. You know what I mean? Because if you
Hmm.
do those same things in the afternoon or in the evening time, typically you're not going to be nearly as focused and as productive. So if you can just
Hmm.
leverage, like you said, even if you're not a morning person, maybe it's not 5 o'clock, maybe it's 8 o'clock in the morning, maybe it's 10
Hmm.
o'clock in the morning, you know? But if you can just leverage those early hours when you do wake up, oh my gosh, it's an absolute game changer.
Yeah. Can we talk about like, there's a thing you need to do, you don't want to do it. Because I know my audience is like, yeah, this sounds great. And like I can it's called values and it's called standards and it's called discipline, but it also kind of like smells like willpower. So can we talk about how to get yourself to do the thing? Like we've talked some about
Yeah.
systems.
Yep.
We've talked some about accountability. Maybe we could go into that a bit more,
Sure.
but how to knock stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the couple things are make it as easy as possible. Like we say like grease the groove. Like how can you make it as easy as possible? So for I mean, just again, for example, let's say that you are launching a new program and you need to do some marketing that requires a lot of copywriting, and maybe you just keep putting off like oh like every morning I wake up and I tell myself I'm going to do it, and I just don't do it. I keep putting it off.
Mhm.
What can you do like the day or the night before to make it easier for you? Well, what if I could just, what if I could just make 5 bullet points the night before on a piece of paper or on a Google Doc? That way, when I wake up in the morning, I've kind of got a guide and there's less things I need to think about. I can just start taking action. So, how can you make it easier? That's one thing. Also, like a lot of times we have this big project, we look at the start and the finish, and that can just seem so overwhelming. Like just say, okay, how do I get to point A to point B? Like what can I do for the next 15 minutes that's just going to at least get me started? Because a lot of times the hardest part's getting started, you know?
Mhm.
So what can I do to just get started, get some momentum, set a timer for 15 minutes, just work on it. And after the 15 minutes, if you're like, hey, I'm in the flow, I'm going to keep going, great. But if you're like, whew, I'm done with this for a while until tomorrow, at least you got 15 minutes done. So that's one
Right.
thing, another thing I would say. And then you mentioned accountability, Allison, and that is to me the biggest thing. We always say you'll move mountains if you have accountability. You
Mhm.
want to find people that you deeply do not want to disappoint. Okay.
Yeah.
Like accountability is not created equal across the board. Like there could be, you could have somebody, I don't know, a neighbor or maybe a friend who you care about, but you don't really care if you let them down.
Mhm.
You're not they're not going to help you move mountains. But if there is truly somebody, whether it's a mentor or a colleague or a significant other, I mean, it could be anybody, a pastor, whatever it is, that you know you deeply do not want to disappoint. If you tell them what you want to do, what you're looking to accomplish, and how they specifically can hold you accountable, and then you do that, you're gonna move mountains. You really are. Just to give you an example, like this was just not too long ago. I was on my settings on my phone looking for something else, and I realized, like, oh my God, I am averaging 4.5 hours on my phone. Like, it was like a smack in the face. Like, I didn't realize I was on my phone that much. And they kind of broke it down, as you guys know, of what you're spending time on. A lot of the social media, YouTube, internet, all these things. And I was like, okay, like, no wonder I've just felt stressed and not as productive. Even this disciplined guy, like, we can all fall in bad habits, bad patterns. And I'm like, okay, like, I need to significantly cut this. I need to get it down to like 2 hours, under 2 hours a day. And it's like, okay, so here's how I'm going to do this. So I created a system for it. And then I'm like, okay, well, now I need people who are going to hold me accountable. Because if I just rely on willpower and if I just try to do it myself, I'll let myself down every day of the week, unfortunately, you know?
Mhm.
So I'm like, all right, who can I do that? So there's three people on our team who you know, Allison, Shannon, Galil, and Gavin. They're coaches on our team. I deeply do not want to disappoint them. I respect them a lot. I don't want to be a hypocrite as head of coaching. And, like that would be
Mhm.
hypocritical of me. So I said, hey, guys, over the next 21 days, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to take a screenshot of my phone at 7 p.m. and I'm going to text it to you guys in this WhatsApp group. And you don't need to say anything. I'm just doing this for accountability. Okay. My
Mhm.
goal is to keep it under 2 hours. I did that for 3 weeks. I think one day I missed it, but all the other days I was in the 2 hours. And after that, I created a habit. I had systems in place. I didn't need them so much more for accountability. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but that really is the power of accountability. And if you're procrastinating something, just make it as easy as possible. Don't worry about all the steps, just what's the next best step that I can take. And that's how you can
Mhm.
build momentum and build compliance.
Yeah, I love that. And I think about the not wanting to disappoint people. We see this dynamic, my limitless practice program, which is
Yep.
for therapists who are full, they're making big changes in their practice, they're trying not to blow their business up on the way, they're trying to make it like the thing that they meant to create
Yeah.
on the front end, but it just got away from them. we do accountability emails in there every week, in addition to our weekly group calls and their one-on-ones. And so I'm asking them about those things. Like, how did that
Mhm.
go last week?
Yeah.
You said you were going to do X, Y, and Z. How did it go? And they know I'm going to ask them.
Yes.
And most people don't expect that an email is going to be like a super impactful part of a program, but
Mhm.
having that weekly email relationship where they know, like, I might not call them out in front of the whole group, depending on the thing. I also might.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to call them on something in the email.
Yeah.
People, when they're graduating from the program, are like, those emails, man, those were incredible.
Yeah.
Because it just helped people chug along and do those things that were annoying and maybe they had some resistance to, because they didn't want to disappoint me and they knew that I would ask them about it.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean it's you're spot on. Like we will work with anywhere from six-figure business. We work with people like nine-figure businesses, and they
Mhm.
all pretty much say like, accountability is the number one factor that I appreciate for this program. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we do marketing and sales and leadership and all these other things, but it's like the accountability is really what is the biggest difference. So I couldn't agree with you more there.
Yeah. Yeah. What other pieces are important for people to be able to, like, not just rely on fraying willpower?
Yeah, so another thing too is identity. Like, so let me also real quick break it down. We have this pyramid in the book that we talk about, the pyramid of peak performance. So there's different layers to it. At the very top is motivation, which is actually the least important. Okay, again,
Mhm.
it's fleeting, it's external factors. The next one is under that is challenges. So, you guys have probably seen a lot of these challenges online of like different fitness challenges, health challenges, sales challenges, relationship challenges, all these things. And the problem with that is that these challenges that other people create, that's their definition of success.
Mhm.
But it like working out twice a day, like reading 10 pages a day and all these things, like, okay, that's great. But like how does that make you disciplined? How does that make you successful? That's just their idea of success.
Mhm.
So we do believe that motivation can be a factor if it's done correctly, if it's paired with action right away. Of course, there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with motivation. And challenges can be okay, but you should do like a custom challenge. For example, when I realized that I was on my phone 4.5 hours, I created that challenge, essentially a challenge for myself, but it was a custom challenge. It was what I wanted. It was what I needed, not what somebody else wanted, not what someone else needed. So,
Mhm.
like, if you find yourself tagging along and all these different kind of like challenges online, like, just be mindful. Like, okay, is this challenge really something that I want? Is it something that I need? If the answer is yes, by all means, do it. But if not, how can you take some of those concepts but apply it and customize it more for what you want, what you need? Okay,
Mhm.
so we got motivation, we have challenges, then we have discipline, which we've talked about. Then we have systems, which we've already talked about, and then the next layer, right before standards, is identity. And really, when it comes down to identity, it's your self beliefs. It's the beliefs that you've told yourself over the years. And a lot of
Mhm.
times these beliefs that we have are so deep rooted. We've told ourselves these stories over the years, and maybe the stories are from our parents and they instill them in us, right? And we're still kind of living those stories out, or still believing those stories. Maybe you had friends or family or colleagues say these stories and you believe those. And so in order to change your identity, you have to change the story that you're telling yourself. Like, a lot of people that join our coaching program, they're not morning people, and they've told themselves, I'm not a morning person, I'm not a morning person, I'm not a morning person. Well, yeah, it's going to be hard to become a morning person if you tell yourself that every single day. So you need to shift that identity. You need to change the story that you're telling yourself, and you need to pair that with action, because it's one thing to believe something, but if you don't actually pair that with action, then it's just, there's not going to be, you're not going to reach those standards. So you need to change the stories. And a personal example for me here, Allison, is that I've always told myself internally I have an addictive personality.
Mhm.
There are facts that can kind of back that along. Like, I do have I do have addictive personality. I get addicted to things very easily. Some of those things are bad habits that I've done in the past. Some of those things are actually good things, like addicted to my work, which can be beneficial, but also can be a detriment if you let it. So I've
Mhm.
always told this story, like, I'm addicted, I'm addicted, I'm addicted. And I had this like epiphany like a year ago. I'm like, I was on a walk, which is my best thinking time. And I'm like, how can I rewire my brain? How can I like rewire this story, this belief? And so I was just doing a lot of internal work, and I'm like, what if I change the story to, I'm passionate. I'm not addicted to things. I'm passionate about things. Okay.
Mhm.
And so now when I change that story, like, if I was addicted, if I said I have addicted personality, and that was the excuse of, well, why do I drink so much? Well, I have addictive personality. It's not really my fault. It's just my addictive personality. But
Mhm.
now when I say I'm passionate, am I passionate about alcohol? No, I'm not passionate about alcohol. So it was easier for me to remove myself from some of those bad habits and then
Mhm.
steer myself towards some of those positive habits, such as I'm passionate about my family. I'm passionate about leadership. I'm passionate about discipline. And so by me rewiring that story in my head, it's allowed me to take the action steps and to create higher standards for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about that, like, um, I have the story of like, well, I'm just not athletic,
Yeah.
you know? I'm just not. And there have been times in my life when I've absolutely been athletic, but the
Mm.
times that I haven't, it's because I have this really great story I can just keep reinforcing for myself.
Yes. Yes.
And when you do something that kind of shows you it's not the truth day
Hmm.
after day, it also helps that shift, like kind of before you even make the story different. Sometimes you can force the story different by just doing the
Absolutely.
opposite.
Yes, yes, yeah, and that's what, like, I used to be the vision board guy, right? I don't know if they're as popular now, but you had this board and all these things that you wanted kind of stapled or thumbtack to it. And I used to do that, and I'd look at all these things and like, man, like look at this thing every day for a year, 2 years. I'm like, I'm not really reaching that vision. I don't think I'm getting any closer. It's like, well, okay, I'm looking at this thing every day, so maybe I'm having more internal belief, like I'm going to do those things. But if I don't pair it with action, it doesn't
Hmm.
matter. So again, when you want to like shift your beliefs, shift your story, shift your identity, you need to work on the internal stuff, but you also need to pair it with action. And when you can combine those two, that's when everything's gonna change for you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, Daniel, how can everybody get The Dark Side of Discipline?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon now. Go to Amazon, The Dark Side of Discipline. You can find it everywhere. We've got paperback, hard copy, Kindle, audiobook got released today, which is amazing.
Uh-huh.
You can also go to darksideofdiscipline.com. You can get all the information there, and then it should be in bookstores as well very soon.
Yay! Thank you
Yes.
so much, Daniel. I hope that people take action and get the book. I've ordered mine, but it's not here yet.
Come on,
Um, and
Amazon.
ultimately, I'm just going to get it on Audible anyway,
Yes,
because that's how
yes.
I listen to everything. So
Likewise.
maybe I'll gift this one. Um, yes. So take action, y'all, so that you can make a difference and make the changes and reach the goals and all those kinds of things that are important to you and that you started this business to begin with. So
Absolutely.
thanks for your time, Daniel.
Thanks, Allison. Appreciate it.